Hi, I'm Kassy, and this is the Spark Konnect, a podcast about what brings us to life: connection, creativity, courage, and the moments that spark real change. I'll be your host, bringing my experience as a speaker, consultant, and lifelong believer in showing up as your full self. In this series, Arts and Facilitation, you'll hear from inspiring voices, facilitators, trainers, speakers, and everyday humans who are also artists, lighting up the world in their own unique, creative ways. This is your space to reflect, reset, and reignite, because the spark is already in you. Let's light it up. You're about to meet Douglas Boehm, a classically trained musician who somehow found his way into marine construction, where his audience wears hard hats instead of headphones. Douglas is a safety training manager, but not your average watch your step guy. He brings a performer's mindset to his work, proving that creativity and rhythm can literally save lives. Think less corporate slideshow and more symphony of scaffolds. In our conversation, Douglas shares how mistakes make learning memorable, why preparation matters, and how being authentic, on stage or on site, helps people truly connect. As he says, you learn concrete from our failures. Yeah, he really went there. So tune in as we explore what happens when music meets marine construction and discover why the best trainers, like the best musicians, always play to their audience. Hi, Douglas. I'm so excited to be here with you today, and I can't wait to get into our interview and all of our questions and what we got. But first things first, please introduce yourself. Tell us about who you are, what you do, how I properly pronounce your name, and what kind of artistry you bring to the corporate world that we both work in. Welcome. Thank you for being here today.
Well, thanks. I appreciate it. And thanks for actually having me and giving me an opportunity to share in this journey with you. So, who am I? My name is Douglas Boehm. My current role is for a marine construction company as the safety training manager. As far as the pronunciation, it is Boehm. It's an old German name that we lost the umlauts when my grandmother, as a matter of fact, came through as a young girl. So it should have been a very German. And I don't speak a lick of German, which she's very embarrassed by, but it should be like Boehm, right? With this very heavy German accent over the O. So, yeah, I've been called many things, like Bohème, like the opera, like La Bohème, Bohème, Boehm, Bohem. Yeah, so whatever.
And what was the cool tidbit about the clarinet?
Oh, so yeah, the fingering chart system for the clarinet was actually developed by I forget the first name, but the last name was Boehm. So that's our big claim to fame that I have no idea whether or not we're actually connected to or not.
That's so interesting. I have a similar problem with my name, problem if you want to call it that, where people aren't sure how to pronounce it, both my first name and my last name. And, when you talk about, well, the German, LaBorie is a French name, and it's not my birth name. It's a name I acquired throughout my life adventures.
Okay.
So the French is LaBorie, and I don't even say that properly. So it just becomes LaBorie in the American accent way. It's so funny.
Oh, yeah.
So interesting. But tell us, okay, so we talked about the clarinet and the fingering chart. You're a musician, Douglas. You're also a safety
Allegedly.
trainer. What's that?
I said allegedly.
Allegedly, okay. And you are a safety trainer for a construction company, which is a marine construction company. So let's just talk about that for a second. Marine construction. What is marine construction?
So we primarily take care of America's waterways. We dredge and or cut channels deeper so that vessels can pass through safely, so we all get our Amazon packages on time is one way. We also do construction work that's relative to marine habitat, so to speak. So as far as building docks and piers and wharfs, either from scratch or rehabbing and things like that. We also do some offshore work where we've built offshore oil rigs or take down or decommission oil rigs that are no longer active. To include some of those actually get put into the sea so that they become part of the habitat for the marine animals and environment, right? So to build habitats. Yeah. I mean, it is a company full of very hardworking, salt of the earth and get her done kind of people. It's been around from since 1905 when the company started, and yeah, we do a lot of cool things in a lot of cool places, and yeah, try
I
to
think
do it
it's
as best
really
as we
cool. I was very interested when you and I met immediately about the work that you do because it isn't every day that I would come across somebody who works in marine construction and does the type of things that you do. And then to top it off, one of my most favorite times of getting to work with you, which I've had the great honor of working with you, but also your colleagues and learning more about the work that you all do. But one of my favorite things is how you're teaching people around safety standards and basically staying alive when they're out there doing the dredging and working on giant equipment and doing very important, dangerous things. But you decided to turn their compliance standards or what they have to do to maintain the compliance, right, and their certifications into an escape game. And so we went through that whole journey together. There's one moment of them going through an escape game, and that's just a little bit of history with Douglas and I, learning about the work that you do and how you're putting that all together. And people really responded well to that, didn't they? The salt of the
Yeah,
earth that we're taking the escape
yeah,
game.
it works in certain scenarios. You know, with all of this, right? The you can't just do the same old wash, rinse, repeat. People aren't going to listen to that. People aren't going to do the things, and we really have to be cognizant of the listening audience, right? If we're going to start like melding the metaphors of music and learning or training, right? It's about being on the same sheet of music and making sure that we're all kind of producing a similar sound so that we're all in that same arena, right? And the audience, right? If you went to go listen to an opera and all of a sudden you heard, I don't know, war instead, right? You would probably be pretty shocked and displeased. So yeah, you really got to balance some of that out.
Well, I knew you were
Uh,
creative as soon as I met you, and so it comes as no surprise. I love how you're bringing in the words from music into the safety training that you've put together for people. Every training that you've shared with me that I've seen is you being creative and you putting on a form of a show in a way that is engaging the audience, and it has to come from. I mean, it is who you are, but obviously I knew it. And so when I put out the call for this to get interviews, I knew he's going to want to do it. So tell us about you are allegedly a musician. Tell us more about that.
First, I gotta say, whether this makes the cut or not, right? You sent the list of questions, right? Kind of the topics that we're going to talk about, questions within the topics. And I truly appreciate that. One, help prepared, but the amount of introspection that I had to do to really kind of think about these things, craft a message, was really hugely beneficial for me in the fact of it really made me kind of step back and recenter, right? We're all very good about the I know that, and we're always looking forward, looking forward, looking forward. And sometimes we don't take enough time to kind of stop and look behind us or look inward. So I appreciate the opportunity that you provided me to do that because it really helped me reconnect with some things. Because I was reading the question, I'm like, well, how does that
Yeah,
influence
like one
me?
of the
How
questions is
has
how.
that, like, to craft an actual thought of, like, instead of it just being organic and happening, it's like, how do I explain that to
Yeah.
somebody else? So,
Like, because one of the questions is like, how does your art influence your facilitation or training
mhm.
style? And you're right. It's like, I don't know if you're anything like me, but when I came up in my corporate life, it was like, leave the acting in the theater for the weekend or for the kids. And, anytime somebody would say, like, can you teach our trainers to be like how you are? Like, how did you engage us? They'd be like, yeah, sure. Let's get in a round and let's do some actor techniques, to warm up their voices and to warm up their bodies. And they'd be like, oh, no, 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 no. No acting stuff. That's not corporate enough. It's kind of like the general message. And so I learned I had to say it differently. Don't get me wrong, I still did it. But I had to find ways to say it differently because if I was going to come at it like we are in the theater now, then it wasn't going to be taken seriously. And so I think there's an art to use that to figuring out how we can bring our artistry. And maybe for some of us, if you're like me, we've kind of had to maybe play it down. And so in some
A
ways,
little bit.
you
Oh,
know,
absolutely.
right.
Yeah.
Like, I don't want to do that anymore. That's the point of these interviews and this podcast is like, no, let's bring it to the foreground because if we're trying to answer that question of the humanity in an AI driven world. It's right here. It's in how we creatively express ourselves. And so I'm already hearing it with you with the language of how we produce and get us on the same sheet. I love it. Let's hear more about that.
Well, I am a theme-oriented person, right? So if you're going to commit to a particular theme, so to speak, it's important to stick with that theme, right? So when I would talk like an instructional design, right? You can have modifications of the theme, but ultimately you want to make everything kind of fit into that realm. It's okay to expand that realm a little bit, but you kind of want to keep that same path, right? We don't want to. I'm all about, yeah, I want to challenge your schema. I want to mess with it a little bit, kind of have you going down this path and surprise, right? The big reveal. But there's a balance to all of this, right? If it's too loud, it's too aggressive, people are just way uncomfortable. Like not in a good uncomfortable, but in a bad uncomfortable. If it's way too toned down, and then you get into this again, and right, then you're bringing bad schema into this instead of their good memories and creating, right, and building from that, right?
Can't help but think of music, and I'm thinking about bands I've seen, or maybe it's like I'm thinking kind of DJs who have to read the room, and like, what are we going to play now? And like, let's get this going, and and it's
Right.
awkward when you play the wrong genre, for example.
Correct, right?
Yeah,
Absolutely.
you got to know your audience and what your audience is going to respond to.
You have to. And, when we put it more in a learning perspective, right? We want to create an environment of uncomfortability. We don't learn from all of our successes. We learn more, faster, more concrete from our failures. But having that safe failure, right? So creating a safe uncomfortability, right? Pushing the envelope or expanding the envelope a little bit at a time, right? The old you can only eat the elephant one bite at a time kind of thing, right? Well, so if you throw 10,000 or 10 brand new things at somebody, they're just like, where do you go first? It's overwhelming, right? If you start, unless it's a song you already know, schema, right? And you started at volume 9 because you can't hear the first couple parts of it, right? Because they're a very low tone. So you kind of crank it up a little bit so you can hear it. And then about 8 bars in, 10 bars in, a minute in, you got to tone it down because at that point it's deafening, right? But that way you can hear the whole thing. So, right, that whole element of you can't start full on. You got to kind of build into it. So there's when I make correlations between music and training or education or learning is you have to start with some basics. You have to lay groundwork. Right? Even if you look at the progression of a song, right? And the chorus of a song, right? You get a little bit of the whatever the content is, a little bit more of the content, but then you get the chorus. And sooner or later you kind of always go back to the chorus and you go back to the chorus. And what that is, right, is that's that reaffirming moment. Or, all right, I'm uncomfortable, put me back in a safe, comfortable place. Okay, now I get reestablished. Oh yeah, I know these lines. Yeah, I feel comfortable. And then all of a sudden, next thing you know, oh, you're back into the uncomfortable. Oh, I don't remember those words. I'll kind of sing along, hum along, right? We all have songs like that.
You just noticed that I want all my training now to be music. I want it to all be songs. Forget it. No more anything else. Just going to be songs. Going to make everything a chorus. Every objective is a chorus.
But I mean, right. So when we talk about the correlation between my musician background and my trainer background, that there's, again, some of this is, again, back to the thanks for the good questions. Thanks for making me really do some introspective looking at this. Because again, some of this stuff just comes so naturally because that was, I mean, it's been a part of my life since I was, I don't know, probably 7-ish.
So tell us about the kind of a musician that you are. What do you do? Or what have you done? Yeah.
Well, now my instruments are quite dusty, sad to say. However, that said, so I grew up in a household that super artistic, super into music. Like we had classical music and all kinds of genres of music playing almost all the time. So my first introduction into music is much different than many. Bach and Beethoven and Brahms and Tchaikovsky were words that I knew before going to elementary school, whereas other people were like, what? It's like, yeah, what do you not know about Beethoven's Ninth? It's like, duh. But then they could be, yeah. So at very artistic family growing up. My aunt, she helped pay for college by being a pianist for churches in her area, right? She was a loomer, so did like loomed little placemats and other accoutrements for dollhouses and did art shows and things of that nature for years and years and years. Like we were hired labor, like carrying all that stuff. My mother and father did stained glass things and rock art and so all kinds of crazy machinery down in the basement, right? The tumbler and soldering irons and all these things. That was just the nature of life. My aunt even did looming classes to young school kids to continue supporting that art well into her mid 80s.
Oh,
So,
I wonder what the connection between those who loom and those who listen to classical music is. I bet it's a lot. I would imagine that they go together quite well while you're looming to have that kind of sound
right,
around you.
right. So, yeah, and I think if we stuck to the questions, I think one of the questions kind of was about how that influence, and it's like music is in everybody's realm, even to points where we probably are very non-aware or not cognitively aware that it is. Like, look at some of the commercials that we hear, right, and the songs that are used to that. Or, again, I was brought up in a probably much different place, right? We would have record recordings of old radio shows, Fibber McGee and Molly and The Shadow and stuff of that nature, right? And even more recent, right? Look at Monty Python, the Search for the Holy Grail, right? Where you got the two half of coconuts and that's your horse hooves clopping and things
That's
like
music.
that, right?
Yeah.
So you scroll back to where we didn't have all of these things, where the scratching something against a leather belt to make a certain noise, or the whole tapping on the table was somebody walking away, or the slamming of the door, right? All of these sound effects that were just, hey, how's this sound? Does this sound right? A cowbell or things of that nature.
The
Just
musicality
whole
that is in that.
experimenting, right?
Yeah.
And then to put that into perspective of that kind of musical support or interjection or what have you, where that is fit into the way of helping craft the environment, helping to supplant or enhance the topic or the conversation or the words or the scene, similar to what we do in, if we're doing it well, that we use imagery instead of words on our slides when we're talking instructional design. It's like, how do I craft this message so that people can attach to it, right? That we use something that's common to them to help build that cornerstone so that we can create that safe uncomfortability as we learn or we expand or we push that envelope kind of thing.
Well, there's so much that it's bringing to the emotional content. Like, have you seen some of
Absolutely.
those funny videos that have been going around? One in particular that stands out, and I'm not sure who the creator is. I'll try to find it. But it's like it was talking about how music matters, and it's the
Hmm.
scene in Star Wars where Luke is learning who his father is, and they have a very different set of music. It just looks like, and they took all the words out, and it's just the music, and it's not at all what was happening in the movie because of the music. I think it was that scene, or at least another one, and it's actually hilarious. Music matters, the score matters. You still haven't
It
told
really
us
does.
what exactly kind of musician you are, though.
Oh, so I picked up the trumpet at probably age
The
7 or so.
trumpet.
Yes.
So wait, so do you play in like swing bands and things? Like what
I
for
have
jazz?
played, yep, classical, jazz, marching band. I was actually part of I was a Marine musician for a number of years.
Marine musician.
So, yeah,
Okay.
as one of my many jobs in the Marine Corps, I was a Marine trumpet player. And then through a basketball injury, significantly sprained my thumb, so I couldn't do the proper motions. We were getting ready to do the Pro Bowl when I was stationed in Hawaii, and to make everything a little bit more centered and whatever, they're like, great, since you can't be there, you're going to grab a sousaphone and you're going to hump that thing around. And I was like, if I'm going to be humping this thing around and doing like marching movements with this thing, I'm going to make it make noise. Well, they weren't okay with just it making noise, so I had to talk to one of the other tuba players and say, all right, you need to teach me how to play these songs. practice so that I could actually be out there and make notes. That thing's heavy.
What is it again? What's it called? A sousaphone?
Sousaphone. So if you ever see a marching band, right, and it's basically a tuba, right, that you sling around your shoulder, and it's a big rings with the big tubas. Its actual name is a sousaphone.
Is it
So
actually a
it's a
tuba? What we
Yeah,
like
yeah.
what we lay folk might call a tuba. Well, there's a new thing I learned today. Another new thing. I didn't know you were a trumpet player. I certainly did not know that you were a sousaphone player.
French horn, percussion, some singing, some dancing, the whole 9 yards.
Gosh, so band camp.
Did those too.
Okay. Oh, that's so cool. Would your connection to the Marines be what led you to marine construction by any chance?
No.
And not at
No.
all, right? Okay.
No, what led me to marine construction was just dumb luck, right place, right time,
Okay.
good relationships.
Gotcha. Wow, that is so cool. Where else do you see things like you're starting to talk about, like, I think this is kind of interesting when it comes to music and especially band, because you have like the band is a group. It's
It
not
is.
just one person. You're not like
Well,
a soloist
it can be.
here. And so how's that? Is there anything from band camp days, band days that plays out like in the work that you do today?
Listen, lady, what happens at band camp stays at band camp.
I was maybe fishing for that line. Thank you very much for bringing it.
Well, listen, if you're going to bump set it, of course I'm going to spike it.
Oh, wait, are we playing volleyball now?
Sure, why not?
Excellent. Slam. All right. Good stuff. So yeah, how does it play out then? Like what it takes to bring a band together, to make a band work? Because bands do amazing stuff. What band today is different than what band was when I was growing up. Like it's a
Well,
thing.
regardless of the genre of music, right? And that's all relative to the listener, right? But regardless of the genre of music, right? There's certain elements that are the same, whether it's instrumental, whether it's vocal or other, right? Even electronic, shall we say, versus instrumental. When I say instrumental, like oboe, bassoon, clarinet, trumpet, violin, that kind of thing, right? We're going to try to correlate this with learning and training and stuff. There's all of the prep stuff, even if it's a canned program or a song that already exists and we're going to perform somebody else's stuff. You got to get the materials. You've got to go through the materials and understand them, right? And not just the things that are on the page, but there's essences of that, right? That are written into it, right? And there's cues and little notes. Same thing if we're looking at an instructor thing, right? There's the words, or here's the script, so to speak, but inside of that, or right, there might be other notes, such as, pay extra attention to this, right? Make sure to get that feedback from the students on X, right? These are like the highlights, right? You can go to music, right? It's going to tell you certain things, right? So it'll either, right, this from a conductor's notes, right? It'll say, okay, this is a highlight, right? You really want to emphasize the brass section on this because that's the essence of this part of it. Or then you look at the individual parts where it says, oh, we're going to go faster, we're going to go a little slower, we're going to have a crescendo, we're going to have a decrescendo, right? That means that my part is going from either my part or my part with the group is going to go from supportive to more solo or the feature or things like that. And there's this ebb and this flow. Same thing in our training, right? It's not just one tempo, it's not just one tone, it's not just one voice, it's not just one approach. It's all of these different things. So when you talk about whether you're a solo or you're, right, as a soloist, right? Obviously, you're very much, you're it. That's it. But the work behind that is almost and sometimes harder because you don't have anybody else to lean on, but it's still that same process.
It's amazing. You know what I'm thinking of right now is how much I work with instructional designers creating materials that they're going to hand over to trainers who need to use them, need to learn them and use them. And it's like we're always trying to bridge that. I am at least trying to bridge that relationship or that understanding. How can we create materials that will allow space for people to bring their own individual creativity to it when they deliver it, but at the same time, when you're that trainer who's learning it and prepping it, reaching out to the designer or trying to understand what are the notes. Like, what a great metaphor music is for this. What are the highlights? Some of the things that you said, where are the notes? Where is it more supportive? Where is it more I'm a soloist? What are the highlights? What are the lowlights, if you will? I made that one up. But what are the notes? What an excellent way for us to maybe try to understand how to bring an instructor guide to life.
Right. Yeah, it's more than click here for this animation and click here for that animation, right? There has to be some other element of really defining kind of even what again to keep that theme, what the timbre of this is, right?
Yeah. And then it's going to change with your audience too, because every performance is different based on audience response.
Most definitely. Most definitely. Even scrolling back a little bit of how music really enhances or can absolutely enhance or how we can play it. One of my, even to this day, most favorite things to listen to is, and I'm going to hopefully not destroy the name, Peter and the Wolf by Sergei Prokofiev, something. He's a Russian composer and a pianist. And I've seen it performed or seen or heard, I should say, when I say seen, by full orchestras, by quintets of both brass as well as woodwind. It is, and if you've never listened to it, I would encourage anybody, go to YouTube or wherever you find your music and just look it for Peter and the Wolf, Sergei, Prokofiev, right? Prokofiev. I'm pretty sure I'm at least close, right?
We will find it and we're going to add it to the notes either way.
Give it 5 minutes. And if that doesn't move you to some level of emotional anything, then let me know and I'll give you something else. And if you know the story of Peter and the Wolf, right, it takes it to this whole nother level where you could just sit back and the music alone, close your eyes, will paint pictures in your mind's eye, in your brain that are just vibrant and colorful and playful and ominous when they're supposed to be ominous just by those different tones or the combination of the musicians. So it's things like that that I try to not emulate per se, but is how do I, as a facilitator, help paint those pictures for people, right? All the learning science, all of the brain science that we put into it, all of the new technology for PowerPoints and other things or other visual acuities. It's like, how do we really combine all of that? How do I take the flute and the piccolo and the oboe and the bass drum and the timpani, and how do I take all of these individual things and meld them together so that they create this overall experience, this overall understanding, so that everybody kind of can sit in that space and be completely immersed with it and energized by it and attached to it and take something away from it that is memorable, right?
How are you doing that?
Well, as the saying goes, right? I work for Dale Carnegie. How do you get to Carnegie Hall is practice, 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 right?
Well, yeah. And like just the fact that you even have the understanding of it and that you know about it. Do you think that you are actively bringing this to your training? Or do you think it's just who you are and you go, I'm going to bring in this nuance and these layers?
A little bit of both.
Yeah.
Ultimately, staying out of the music realm, if we're really designing our learning engagements with the learner in mind, we have to turn ourselves from not being the musician, not being the facilitator, not being the conductor, but being to the listener, to the observer, to the participant. It's like, if I were sitting in this seat, what are things that would help me understand the concept, bring the awareness, be engaged in this moment? What are things that would, from an imagery perspective, really connect me to the content of whatever this is, right? What are these things? What's in it for me as well, right?
Yeah. The notes. It's the notes. And this is where AI isn't doing this. So as I think about, again, that big question that we're all having, how do we find the humanity in the AI? It's like AI is going to just read the notes.
Correct.
It's not bringing the nuance. It's not reading the room as it's being delivered and making those adjustments on the fly, right? And not yet at least, but
Well, and so only if we tell it to, right? If we write the most creative and detailed and explanatory prompt, right, to assist me in creating this, what I really feel, what I already have in my head, what my ultimate goals are for the learner, or what's needed from the learner or for the learner, crafting this message, and then taking the tidbits out of there that actually work, right? But again, the creativity for me in that aspect is how do I write the prompt for it to do what I kind of want it to do, right?
Right. Right. It's like learning to be a more clear communicator, using it as a partner. And I mean, it's going to keep learning and it's going to keep doing it. But the essence of being able to switch in the moment, to deliver in the moment, to respond in the moment, those things are what you still bring. And that's your artistry, your creativity that's coming out through that.
Yeah.
So cool.
Boy, the way we have been not following the script at all. If anything that this conversation is, it's jazz, right?
Yeah.
We have a theme and we're sticking to it, but we are just going up, down, all around,
Which is like
touching
a
here,
training,
playing a
because you
little
can
bit.
have your whole plan, but then you have the people that come in and they have their life experiences and their responses to it. And then it's up to us to get us back on track, or the song and dance that we must do
We do, right?
to get through. It's so interesting. It's so much. I've known you for quite a while, but hearing this is all new stuff for me. To learn more about what you bring and who you are, and it makes so much sense. The passion and the thoughtfulness and the ability to have fun. That sounds like a description for what jazz is to me.
Yeah, right. You got to experiment a little and be comfortable with knowing that not all experiments end up without explosion.
Is there anything that you do that helps you prepare for when you're going to deliver a training or a speech or a presentation? Is there anything that we could steal from you that you could teach us, in fact, that maybe we could all use from the world of band?
So yeah, sure. So there's always the joke, right? If you play a wrong note, right, that's bad. If you play a wrong note, but if you do it again purposefully, then it's not incorrect. Now it's just jazz,
I love this.
right? And understand that no musician, no facilitator, no human being on the planet has ever been perfect. And as facilitators, we are ultimately our worst critics by tenfold, right? Because not only do we know what we're supposed to do, and when we make a mistake, we're very critical of that. So one of the things that I would to a facilitator is, and I had an instructor tell me this years and years ago, taking private lessons, and I was getting actually ready for a solo performance, and he's like, "Listen, you're gonna mess up." It was an extremely hard music to play, right? He goes, "There's a high probability that as you do this, you will mess up." He goes, "Your human reaction, especially as a youth, right, was to stop, make a face, stomp, say, 'Oh gosh darn,' or something a little more aggressive, da 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 da," right? He goes, "In a performance, you can't do that. You have to practice knowing that you're going to make mistakes and to keep going, because the majority of the people that are listening won't know it's a mistake. They'll know it's a mistake when you make that face or your tone changes or you get flustered or whatever it is. And if somebody does notice and you keep going, or you stop and you go, 'Wow, excuse me, I played that horribly from an audition. I played that horribly. Would you give me an opportunity to kind of reset and try it again?' We as facilitators, you know what? I got off track. That was a great question. We got to get back to where we need. Give me a moment. Let me get back scheduled to the schedule, see where we need, and get recentered. Nothing wrong with that. But most of the time, we're so critical of ourselves that if we make the mistake and we just keep with the music, we just keep plugging along, and we get to the end, if somebody calls us out that we made a mistake, high five, good job. You were paying really close attention. I appreciate that. But did it make the performance any less good or memorable or effective, or did anybody not learn the things because you had a little slip up?
I mean, in fact, if anything, if you keep going and whether they noticed or not, and you still got through it, it would make it even more memorable because you got through that. I love this. So you're going to make a mistake, and it matters how you handle it and move through it. That's really what you've just taught us, which is a beautiful thing. What it makes me think of is I have this bit in my keynote speech where I reveal the secret. I think I have the secret to the whole thing, and we play it up the whole time, and I reveal it in the end. And one time I had just changed the way the secret was to be revealed. I went from one method to another method without giving away the secret. And the very first time I did it, it didn't work. It bombed. Like I just had to get through it. And so I was like, okay. And I just responded and kept going through it, and it was awkward. But here's the thing that you're making me think of. I now use the failure as the follow-on to the one that now succeeds very well. I made a slight adjustment to make it more clear, and now it doesn't fail. And I get to have 2 bits on my 1 bit now because of that failure. Because when it works, everyone's cheering and everyone's, I cry, and then I tear up rather. And then as the person is going back to their seat, because they come up to the front to reveal it, I then get to have another bit where I go, can I tell you all the secret about the secret? First time I tried it like this, it didn't work. And then I get to play the audience where they go, what? That was amazing. How would that never work? So my failure in that moment became an addition to the bit that like doubled the impact of the bit now. So I'm all thankful for the failure. But in the moment, I wanted to crawl under a rock.
Sure.
Which I didn't. I didn't. I was like, okay. And I did what you said, kept going. The video footage of it's quite funny. But that's what you're making me think of. Thank you.
Sometimes you just got to press through, right?
Yeah.
Nobody's perfect. You're going to make a mistake.
And nobody even like necessarily expects the perfection. What they expect is that they still have a great experience, even in spite of that. That's a real strong lesson for any facilitator, trainer, presenter, performer to learn. Because you're right, we stop with the make a face, stomp, and want to like leave. That's so good.
There's a second part to that.
Okay.
And I joke about it, like, how do you get to Carnegie Hall? You practice, practice, practice. So years back ago, when I started teaching fall protection, some of those courses range from 1 hour to a 4 hour to a 16 hour to a 40-hour course, right? Depending on the level of. For probably at least, if not longer, the first year that I was doing these. And granted, some of these I would do multiple times a week, or they would be regularly. In the first 2 years, probably hundreds of times for most of those, except the 40-hour, right? I would, the night before, pull up all the slides, pull up the instructor materials, pull up all the words, and I would literally click through every animation and every slide. I would read the stuff. I would even recite over certain things. I would talk through a story or relate that I was going to use. And just kind of mimic through all elements of this. And that is something that I would always do musician wise as well. Like, even though we'd practice it hundreds of times the night before or slightly before the performance, would go through, like, even if I didn't actually play it, I would grab my horn or just my fingers and I'd be going, singing it in your head kind of, and keeping along with it, just to put that muscle memory like in its premier place, right? Get warmed up and so on and so forth. So, and again, for a year, every night. So I think tomorrow I'm doing an 8-hour class. I'd spend like 2-3 hours going through all of that 8 hours of material. And then throughout the day, constantly checking back. All right, where am I at? What did I miss? What did I do, right? To make sure that any mistakes that I could come back and we could rehash them. Obviously, if I wrote the song or I'm the instructor and designer, I have a leg up on everybody, right? I already know the intent. I know the timbre. I know the pace. I know the things. But whether I did or not doesn't matter. Still have to just, the familiarity, the muscle memory of that will help polish that performance. And any trainer or any person that stands in front of any group and doesn't think it's a performance is absolutely lying to themselves. And it's unfortunate.
Agreed.
Because we as human beings, especially here in the United States, we are awesome, just excellent, like masterful at judging others. So
Masterful.
masterful.
Wicked.
We are pro level, right? So any facilitator that's like, oh, I'm worried about them judging me, know that don't worry about it, because they are, right? So as long as you're authentic, you're honest about what it is, and you put in the effort beforehand, doesn't mean that it's perfect, right? All of that planning, all that preparation doesn't mean that it's a success. That just means that you've mitigated or minimized the opportunities for failure.
Right. It's not about memorizing it. It's about learning it, feeling it in your bones, and being able to like the way this plays out in virtual training, you think you knew everything and then everything failed. And are you able to get back up and keep going? And that's only if you've learned it.
Hmm.
because that line now has to be deleted. And if you are stuck on it memorized, then you can't get to the line following that because that other one got deleted, then you're messed up. It's like, but if you learned what your message is, then you can move forward.
That's the actor in you talking.
It is. It is.
Yes, but, or yes, and.
Yeah, but
Right.
but what you were describing is like to make something be performed in a natural way has a whole bunch of unnatural process ahead of time,
Amen. Amen. Like, where's my point? Where's this? So if it's an exercise, it's like, okay, where's the material? What do I got to do? How do I got to prep? When do I got to prep that so that it can have this seamless lead in? Or how much time do I need? And it's like, okay, hey, we're going to take a 10-minute break. Everybody go find some water, go find the restroom. And while you're gone, I want to be a mad dash over here and we're going to change the scenery, right? I'm going to be my own crew. And all of a sudden you're going to come back and you're going to be like, where'd all that stuff come from? All right, so ready for an exercise here. I mean, it's that kind of forethought. It's that kind of constantly being in the moment, but
Yeah.
also trying to be a couple steps ahead.
And the only way you get there is through that, what you described as practice and rehearsal and going over it and over it. I talk about in learning technology, you got to, use the heck out, like learn it, use the heck out of it, and then get over it. But the only way you can get over that stuff, to let go of it, is to know it in your bones and to have learned it in your bones, because otherwise I don't have anything to let go of. I can't let go of something I don't know yet. So, sorry.
I don't know if you say so.
I mean, you should probably hold it before you let go of it, It's very interesting. But gosh, Douglas, I could talk to you all day. This is so fun to learn more about you. You got to tell us where we can get in touch with you.
So the LinkedIn profile. Yeah, that's probably the easiest way to get a hold of me. I am, I'll be honest, I am a social media, how do I want to put this? It's 2025. I'm almost 55 and I don't have a Facebook page, nor do I ever plan on getting a Facebook page. Other than that, you're good luck finding me on other things. I think I have an Instagram still. I used to just post like food pictures when I was on the road a lot. I have a Snapchat that the only reason I use that is because the kids of our family and the family has a group Snapchat. And even then I get yelled at often about, hey, your niece put some pictures up on there and you haven't responded. And I'm like, yeah, begrudgingly, I will open Snapchat now. Okay.
Well, LinkedIn is going to be perfect because you have the most epic LinkedIn profile picture of probably anyone in my whole network. What is the origin story of that picture?
Origin story of that picture is, as a safety trainer, one of my big emphasis is on fall protection and fall rescue. So that was when we were testing a device. It's a controlled rate descender. It's used in rescue performance. It's a pre-rigged rope rescue system. The picture, as interesting as it is, a very talented coworker of mine, graphic designer, this guy, he's now running for office in the city of Tacoma, right? So not born in the United States, emigrated to the United States. This guy's short life is probably enough to write 3 or 4 novels of how do you just become awesome at insert lots of things. I mean, he's an amazingly talented and just a solid human being throughout, right? So kind
He's
of
also
impressive.
a great photographer is what you're saying.
No,
No?
he was like great. So that is, it's really me hanging from this thing, suspended, but not next to the building that we're talking about. This was
Okay.
suspended in a warehouse where we had a rescue tower and stuff like that. And at that time, I was probably only about 8 feet up in the air, whereas that imagery makes it look far more dramatic than that, right? So
I love
there's
it. I just wish that there was some way we could capture data on how many people are looking at your LinkedIn right now to look at the photo at the same time that you're talking about it. It's incredible.
However, I will tell you that I have been in that position at quote unquote hundreds of feet.
Oh my God.
There was years ago for a safety week, which happens every May, OSHA Safety Week. I did a demo of that off a tower crane at a Skanska work site when they were building the Burke Museum up at the University of Washington. And I had a number of those people, number of Skanska safety people come through classes and take the rescue training and stuff, and they wanted to come out and do a demo. So we dropped a dummy off of the crane, lowered down to the dummy, retrieved the dummy, lowered down to the ground. Well, as the story goes, I come walking over and some guy, they'd called the news, right? And let everybody know because, you see something hanging off the tower crane. 911 was going to get some calls. So they were all well aware of what's going on. They call the news. Guy goes, hey, yeah, we're live tweeting this. And at that point, I'd been suspended in my harness for a significant period of time. We were 130 feet up in the air on the tower. So once you get down, you have to kind of readjust where the harness is sitting. And as I was walking over, they're like, oh, how was that? And I'm like, yeah, a lot more fun coming down than climbing up, right? Who needs a workout program? Climb a 150-foot tower crane and then rappel off of it. Blast, right? Then they go, we got here a little bit late. We didn't get a whole lot of good footage. Can you do it again?
Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh.
Thank goodness for the internal filter, because inside the terminology and the verbiage that I used to respond to that would have come across very unfavorable for our organization. So I stopped. I looked at them. I looked back up at the crane. Now, mind you, this is after all of my gear had been lowered down already. I looked up and I'm like, sure, give us a minute to get restaged.
You did it
And
again.
So we ended up doing it again.
You are so cool, Douglas. Thank you. Thank you for sharing all your insight today and all the cool stuff that you do, keeping the world safe out there on the marine construction, and then just all the creativity and everything you bring. Thank you.
That's your spark. Now go light something up. And hey, if this episode lit you up, share it with a friend, a fellow facilitator, or someone who needs a little more connection in their day. Be sure to follow the Spark Konnect so you don't miss what's next. We've got more brilliant voices, bold ideas, and heart-forward conversations coming your way. Until then, stay curious, stay brave, and keep showing up.